Hey there, and welcome to Insidious Inc. Tonight, we're stepping into the terrifying world of sleep paralysis, where nightmares don't just stay in your dreams. They stand in the corner of your room, watching. 3 people, 3 terrifying encounters, and the worst part? They were completely awake. Before we begin, a quick warning. These stories are deeply unsettling. If you've ever had sleep paralysis yourself, you might want to leave a light on. Consider yourself warned. They say sleep paralysis is just a trick of the mind, a brief moment of fear that fades with the morning light. The first time it happened, they thought that it was just a bad dream. But dreams don't leave you feeling like something else was in the room with you. It was late, they were exhausted, sinking into bed, expecting sleep to come easily. The blankets were warm, the silence of the house comforting, but the moment they closed their eyes, something felt off. A strange heaviness in the air, like the room was waiting. Then, it started. A pressure, heavy and suffocating, pinning their chest. Their arms, their legs completely frozen. They tried to move, to breathe, to scream, but nothing came out. Their bodies refused to respond. The air turned stale, wrong. A quiet ringing filled their ears, growing louder, sharper, and then they noticed it. A shadow in the corner. At first, it was just a shape, indistinct, shifting, but then it stepped closer. Tall, lurking, watching. They could feel its eyes on them, even though they couldn't see a face. Their heart pounded in their chest, the panic rising, adrenaline flooding their system. Every instinct screamed, "Don't look, don't let it know you see it." But it was too late. The thing in the corner knew. It smiled. Not a normal smile, not a human one. It stretched, too wide, too unnatural, a grin that shouldn't be possible, as if its skin was splitting just to accommodate it. And then it spoke. "You're awake." The words weren't heard. They were felt, inside their skull, crawling through their bones, vibrating like something ancient, something that had been waiting. Its voice was layered, overlapping whispers that weren't quite words, yet still understood. Then in an instant, it was gone. They gasped, their body jerking upright, drenched in sweat. Their throat burned from the scream they never got to release. The room was empty. The shadow was gone. But the feeling remained, because somehow they knew it was still watching. The next night, they were afraid to sleep. They left the lights on, the TV playing softly in the background, anything to keep the dark from creeping in. It didn't help. As soon as exhaustion won, as soon as their eyes shut, the pressure returned. This time, it didn't wait in the corner. It was standing over them. They could feel it, the cold presence looming, the air growing thick and stagnant, their breath hitched, trapped in their throat. Then, fingertips, brushing their arms, slow, deliberate. A whisper right by their ear. "I see you." The weight lifted. Their bodies jolted upright, gasping for air, heart hammering against their ribs, but the room wasn't empty. The closet door was open, and inside something moved, something waiting. For some, sleep paralysis is just a fleeting moment of fear, a trick of the mind, a nightmare that fades with the morning light. For others, it feels like something else entirely, something real, something waiting. It had happened before, but this time was different. They woke up, unable to move. The usual weight on their chest was there, pressing down like an invisible force. Their lungs tightened, struggling for air. They tried to blink, to adjust their eyes to the darkness of their room. And that's when they saw it. It wasn't in the corner this time, it was standing over them, a figure draped in shadows, its face barely visible except for its eyes, hollow, dark voids that pulled them in, drowning them in a fear they could not escape. It leaned down, slow and deliberate, bringing its face inches from theirs. That's when they realized it wasn't breathing, but they could hear something, a whisper. Not from its mouth, but inside their head, thoughts that weren't their own, thoughts that weren't human. Don't move, don't breathe, it's watching. Their pulse hammered against their ribs, but they obeyed. They stayed still, silent. The air felt frozen, thick with something unseen. The figure's hand rose, hovered over their chest. It didn't touch them, but they felt it, cold, pressing through their skin, as if reaching for something deeper. Their hearts pounded, a frantic drumbeat in the silence. Every muscle in their body screamed to move, to fight, to do anything but lie there, helpless. But they couldn't. And then, just as suddenly, it was gone. The weight lifted. Their body jerked upright, lungs sucking in sharp, ragged breaths. Sweat clung to their skin. Their fingers trembled as they reached for the bedside lamp, fumbling for the switch. Light flooded the room. Empty. But something was wrong. Their blanket had been pulled down to their waist. Their bedroom door, which had been shut when they fell asleep, now stood wide open. A chill ran down their spine. Has it always been open? Had they forgotten? Or had something left? A noise. Soft, barely a breath, not in the room, behind them. Their entire body seized. They didn't want to turn, didn't want to look, but the whisper returned, slow, crawling along their spine, wrapping around their thoughts like fingers in the dark. Not yet. A shadow flickered in the hallway. The door creaked and began to close. Not fast, slow, controlled. Like something was still there. Like something never left. And just before the door clicked shut, before the darkness swallowed the room once more, the whisper came again. Closer, right against their ear. Go back to sleep. Some people experience sleep paralysis once or twice in their life, a rare, terrifying fluke. A nightmare they can shake off in the morning. Others aren't so lucky. They were used to it by now, the paralysis, the fear. The same dark figure appeared, standing in the shadows, watching, always watching. But this time, something changed. They woke up to the familiar weight, pinning them down, their body frozen, their mind racing. Their chest felt like it was sinking, pulled into the mattress by an unseen force. They could barely draw a breath. But this time, the figure wasn't in the shadows. It was sitting on their chest. A faceless thing, its limbs impossibly long, its bony frame pressing down with a force that wasn't human. The air smelled different, stale, cold, wrong. Then it moved. Its fingers, thin and sharp, reached for their face, cold, bony, trembling. It traced their jaw, a slow, deliberate touch, like it was studying them, deciding something. Then its grip tightened. It turned their head, forcing them to look. That's when they saw the mirror. It shouldn't have been there. They never slept facing it, but there it was, looming across the room and in the reflection. They weren't in bed anymore. They were inside the mirror. The figure wasn't sitting on them. It was standing over their reflection, its empty face twisted into something almost human. Almost. Their heartbeat thundered in their ears. No. No, this wasn't real. This couldn't be real. They wanted to scream, to break free, to wake up, and then the reflection blinked. Not them. The other them. their own faces twisted into a smile, lips moving silently at first, then, in a voice that sounded exactly like theirs, "Wake up." Their bodies lurched upright, gasping. Air flooded their lungs, their hearts slamming against their ribs. The room was still, quiet. The mirror was normal again. The figure was gone. They exhaled, trembling, trying to convince themselves it was over, just another episode, another nightmare. But as they turned away, something made their blood turn to ice. The reflection didn't move, it just stood there, smiling. Their breath hitched. Maybe their mind was playing tricks on them. Maybe the adrenaline was still wearing off. Then, the reflection raised a hand. A cold, bony hand. Not theirs. The smile widened, and then in their own voice, but hollow, wrong, echoing from inside their skull, "You didn't wake up." And that's it for tonight's stories. Or maybe it's just the beginning. After all, if sleep paralysis is just a trick of the mind, then why do so many people see the same thing? Have you ever experienced sleep paralysis? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And if you love stories that keep you up at night, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You never know what's lurking in the dark, waiting for you to fall asleep. Until next time, stay safe, sleep tight, and if you wake up but can't move, whatever you do, don't open your eyes.